Welcome to the Swim Swam podcast. I'm today's host, Coleman Hodges, and joining us today, she is a world champion. She is a junior open water world champion. And most recently, she is an Olympic silver medalist from the 2024 Paris Olympics. Today, we are sitting down with Claire Weinstein. Claire, thanks so much for being here. How's it going?
It's going good. Thank you so much for having me.
This episode of the Swim Swam podcast is sponsored by Commit Swimming, SwimSwam's exclusive team management software partner. Since 2015, Commit has been providing coaches with swimming's leading workout management software. And now, Commit has team management software too. Commit wants to help you make the switch from Team Unify to a simpler, more powerful solution. Their onboarding and customer service team will walk you through every step of the way. Check them out at commitswimming.com to book your demo today. That's COMMIT swimming.com. You have had quite a whirlwind summer. You've been traveling all over the globe, certainly all over the United States and Europe. How is it to finally be back home in Las Vegas and know that you don't have travel coming up in the too immediate future? I think you at least have a few weeks at home, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's super nice just to kind of like chill and just get my routine back together here, honestly. After the Olympics, I came back for like a week and a half, and then I was off to Italy, and then I spent some time in Florida. So it's nice to be back here and just like honestly just like going through the motions again. Like I kind of took it for granted, just like having like a good training block. So I'm really excited for that, just like get back into shape and everything.
So we were talking off camera that moving into this fall, you've graduated high school. Mm-hmm. You finished. This was supposed to be your senior year, but you're actually done with classes. So you're just going to swim. You're going to go compete. So when do you travel next for your fall competitions?
Yeah, so I just recently committed to attending the Open Water World Cup in Hong Kong, and then the next week after that, the short course World Cup in Singapore. So we're kind of doing like the back-to-back meets, and then I don't think it's out yet, but I did accept short course worlds. I don't know if I can say that because I haven't announced it, but so as of right now, I will be going to short course worlds too. So Singapore will probably be a good like setup for that.
Yeah, I think you can say you're planning on going.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's all exciting. So you've got some racing, certainly international racing coming up. You have raced in Asia before, correct?
Mm-hmm.
What is it like, and what do you feel like you will know now this time going to Hong Kong and then to Singapore, maybe that you didn't know your first time when you went to, I guess, Fukuoka or any other travel meet you've been to there?
Yeah, I definitely feel like competing in Asia is probably like the hardest just because of like the long travel and like the time adjustment and everything. The thing that I found hardest to like accommodate to in Fukuoka was honestly the food, because I have some pretty like, not like strict, but like I have like dietary restrictions. Like I'm gluten free and I try and be like dairy free. So that's really hard to find in Asia. So I've learned like from the past meets that I've gone to that just like bringing like as much food as I can is honestly the way to go. Just like American snacks, like gluten-free snacks, and just like preparing like to basically not be able to eat anything that they serve us.
Yeah, that's I didn't know that about you, but I've certainly, when my brother was in high school and competing in swimming, he went on to swimming college. He was also gluten-free and dairy-free. I'm wondering what spurred that for you and how you've adjusted to that, because it's not easy, even in America. I think just having certain restrictions that I think your compatriots, your training mates, your coaches are probably all used to eating when you're at competitions, when you're going to restaurants, and when you're eating out a lot, right?
Yeah. So when I first moved to Sandpipers, honestly, like I had really bad stomach issues and I didn't really know why. I had like horrible, and I still do have horrible athletic induced acid reflux. So I had a lot of like stomach issues regarding that. And so I think my nutritionist first recommended going gluten-free, and I kind of did it, but I wasn't like super like consistent about it. And January of this year is when I like completely locked down on it. And honestly, I saw a lot of changes. But I also do it for like other medical reasons because it's really good for like your stomach health and everything. And I feel like honestly, like a gluten-free diet is like gaining a lot of popularity because I don't know if it's because I was never like looking for it, but I feel like now a lot of places are having like gluten-free options and like everything like that. So honestly, it's gotten a lot better in the US, but it's very hard like traveling and being gluten-free, I have to admit.
It's interesting you brought that up in Asia. And I feel like traveling anywhere, whether it's domestic or international, is always a little challenging if you have certain dietary restrictions. But I feel like going to Europe, like nothing is gluten-free there or
Mhm.
nothing, or it's harder to find. And like they eat a lot of bread and cheese there. I think
Yeah, that's
they're like
all they give
that
is bread. Like,
that is their staples, right? So it's yeah, it's interesting. I feel like that's just an added challenge, but as you said, you're a seasoned traveler now,
yeah.
and so you're getting that experience, which is really nice.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And so you have been on this diet for a while now, and you feel like you've seen the benefits of it, and will you stick with it moving forward?
Yeah, I'm still gluten free. The dairy free thing is a little bit less like strict. Like I kind of just eat dairy when I want to, and I'm just usually don't eat it at swim meets. That's usually what it is.
Yeah, fair enough.
Mhm.
I feel like it's always good to hear people being open with what they're trying for their diet, because I think everyone reacts differently, and
Mhm.
what works for one person might not work or work differently for someone else. So I'm glad that is working for you so far.
Yeah, and there's so much like contradicting like information on the internet about nutrition. You honestly just have to like find what like works for you and just stick to that because everybody's different, like you said, and like nothing works for everybody.
Agreed. Yeah, I feel like the best diet plan is just a guess and check, right? It's
Mhm.
like see what works for you, see what works best for your body. And I also feel like it changes over time too. So
Mhm.
you kind of have
Yeah.
to be conscious of it.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, getting off of diet. So you have some travel coming up to Asia and then to Budapest, and so you should have an exciting fall. But you had a whirlwind summer. Let's just go back to Olympic trials. Coming off of that meet, you made the team. How did you feel about your performances in Indianapolis, though, or did you even reflect on them at all at that point?
Yeah, Indianapolis was really hard for me. Just like I had like issues like going into the meet and then just like being there and honestly just falling completely like on my face like after the 400. It was really hard to just like kind of turn that around and everything. I'm so like honestly thankful looking back that I managed to get on the team of the two free because there were a lot of things going on at that meet and honestly it just like it showed me how like intense that meet is. Like I went to trials in 2021, but I think I was like freshly 14. Like I just went for like because I made the cut and I was just swimming. I wasn't like trying to make the team or anything. And it is such a different experience. And they're not lying when they tell you like the emotions there are crazy. And it's not just like how you're swimming. It's like you're in the team area and you see people like coming back crying. You see people coming back like so excited, like their dreams just came true or like their dreams were just crushed. It's just such an emotional meet. And I think it was also really hard for me because I feel like I'm like an empath and I always like I just always like feel bad for people and just in any scenario and I always want to help them and just like need like I at that point I was struggling too and I just needed to like focus on myself and like lock in on myself. So that was really hard, but looking back I'm just so glad I made it in the two free. And yeah, that's basically that was my reflection of the meet.
Yeah. I mean, as you said, the 400, which is the first event, is it on day one still? Yeah.
Yeah, it was day one.
So day one of the meet, like, everyone's kind of starting off the meet, getting the nerves out, and you don't have the swim that I'm sure you've trained for or you had maybe expected. Are you able to discuss what was going on with you heading into the meet?
Yeah, so basically I was very sick. Like this is like 2 weeks out. There were a couple kids in my group that got very sick at the meet that we went to in California. We like caught something. We don't really know like what it was, but it was like something with like respiratory lungs because I got very sick. I had to take like I think I took like 2 days off from practice, which was like it sounds like not a lot, but like when you're like a week and a half to 2 weeks out from trials, like it is a lot. And
Yeah.
3 years, I've been on sandpipers for 3 years and I've taken off 1 practice. So it was a lot for me. And basically just like practices were horrible. Like I had no like stamina and it was really challenging like going into the meet and like it showed in my distance events that I was really struggling because I like my first 200 of the 4 free like it was great. Like I think I went at like 159 and then I absolutely like I've never died before like that. Like I've never died like that in my entire life. I felt like I was like drowning, like honestly. And I think that's like the slowest time like I've gone like since I was like 13, I think. But so it was nice. It was interesting, not nice. That was sarcastic. It was interesting to have that at trials. But yeah, just like those getting through those races were just so hard because I knew that like I had like the sickness and everything still inside of me. And then after the 4 free, I honestly couldn't really decipher if it was like my nerves or I actually was like that like messed up from the sickness. So it was like really confusing for me too. And I just like gaslit myself after the 4 free. I was like, it's because I was nervous. Like I was so nervous. I went out way too fast and I'm not sick. But as the meet went on and I started like breaking down more, I was like, okay, it is because I was sick because I got a lot better. And then I think because of like the intense like scenario of trials and like pushing myself so much, like it got worse again because I got sick again after trials and that like kind of dragged into Raleigh too. But yeah, so basically that's what was going on. And then it was like a respiratory infection and then it turned into like a really bad sinus infection. So like anytime I went underwater, like it would hurt. It was a mess.
That is not what you want at the
I
biggest meet of
know.
your life.
I know. And
um,
it's like everybody like has their issues going into trials and I knew that. So I was just trying to like just roll with the punches.
I mean, I like that you said that you couldn't tell what it was. Was it the nerves? Was it the sickness? Right. And then it's like, I just had to gaslight myself. Like, I just had to
Mhm.
keep telling myself, like, you were just nervous. Like, you're fine. Because I feel
Mhm.
like, what else are you going to do? Like, that is the best case scenario in that situation. Right. It's
Mhm.
just like, I got to keep going and do my best.
Mhm.
So then tell me about the 200 freestyle. You know, it's like, okay, meet's not off to a great start, but first swim's over. The next one is half as long. Um, tell me about how you get through the prelims and semis and ultimately the final, especially mentally and emotionally, how you handled those next couple days.
Yeah, so the 4 free was the first day, and then the 2 free was the second day. So it was a very quick turnaround. It didn't really hit me until I was watching the final of the 4 free, and I was just like, I did not know what to do. Like, I honestly like could not keep it together because I was like, I should have been in that heat. Like, even if I like hadn't made the team in that, I was like, I should have been like in the final, you know, and just like missing the final right off the right off the bat was really hard. And so I was really nervous before the 4 free, but it went like 100 times that, like before the 200, because of what happened in the 4 free. Like it was so bad. Like I was like nauseous. Like I couldn't tell if I was like if I was getting sick again, or if I was like putting myself through that. Like thankfully, I got through to the semis, and I think I was like third going to semis, and that was like the biggest weight off of me. Like I was like, oh my god, like I actually can swim. Like I'm not there was still something wrong, but I was like, there's nothing wrong with me. Like I can swim because I also didn't put like everything into prelims, and I think I went to 157. So I was like, all right, like realistically, like 157 would. I thought like 150. I thought I was gonna have to go like 155 to get like sixth place. Um, But at the time, I was like, okay, 157 will probably get me into the final. So at least we're rolling with that. But yeah, so after the two free, it was like a crazy turnaround, and I had so much more confidence going into finals. And then, I mean, semifinals, going to semifinals. And then I just knew if I was like within like top three in the semis that I would be into the final. So after that, it was kind of smooth sailing in the two free, into semis at least. But then after semis, like it kind of took a lot out of me. So the next day I was just working on like recovering. Like, I think I swam in the morning, just like loosen up and just like prepare myself as best as I could for finals.
Yeah. And I have to imagine, at a swim meet, you are outputting a lot of energy, right? And especially at that meet, a lot of emotional energy as well. But you're also like taking the best care of yourself you can outside of the competition. So I feel like that's maybe a little bonus in terms of just trying to recover from sickness as well.
Yeah, for sure.
And so then the 200 free final, take me through that. Did the sickness or just your health at that point affect how you tried to approach the race at all?
A little bit, but not like yes and no. So the whole season I was kind of working on like getting out faster in my races because I knew that like I'm a good closer. So I was just working on like getting out faster. But then in the four free, I went out too fast and I died. So I was like, okay, we're gonna have to like change this plan a little bit. So I was trying to focus on being more relaxed, like the first 50, like easy speed, not like pushing it too hard. And that's what I did in semis, and it was pretty good time. I think it was like my second best time ever. And I still feel like that I felt like that wasn't 100% in that race. So then going to finals, I was trying my best to stay relaxed, but it's like no one's actually relaxed in that scenario. Like everything's on the line, like you're trying to get a spot on the Olympic team, like the pressure is enormous. And so we all went out really fast in that race and we all died. So thankfully, like looking back on it, we all died. So I was glad I got my hand on the wall second. And obviously, Katie obviously decided to decline her spot. So even if I got in third, I would have done the individual spot. But it meant a lot to get the spot for myself, And I had gotten on the team individually the past 2 years. So it wasn't even just like, okay, I have to make like the team, like I have to get top 6. It was more like I need to get this individual spot. Just because I had in previous years, and obviously I wanted to keep that going. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, through all that, what a turbulent 3 days. And then you make the team, and you get an individual spot. I mean, how did it feel to have that accomplishment under your belt at that point?
Yeah, it was amazing because obviously everybody's goal going into that meet was to make the Olympic team, and it's been a dream of mine for so long. So it was definitely just an amazing experience, an amazing feeling. But like this is very random, but I thought like it was gonna feel different, but it felt the exact same. Like I was like, okay, I still feel like the same person. Like it hadn't really kicked in yet, but honestly, it never really did like kick in. I never like felt any different. It was more just like, okay, I accomplished this goal. Like now it's on to like the next thing. So that was like an interesting thing about the experience.
And I'm curious if it might come up, down the road in weeks or months, but I think that's really cool to hear, and probably good for others to hear, that it's like making the Olympic team, as you said, it is just another goal. And
Hmm.
it can be as impactful or as important as any other goal you set, winning sectionals or
Hmm.
making Olympic trials cut, or, whatever it is. And it's really cool to hear.
Yeah.
So then, as you said, after the meet, you get sick again, which I feel like, especially a 9-day meet, it's so long, it's so taxing
Hmm.
emotionally, physically. I think a lot of people get sick. I know I get sick after a lot of those meets, just covering them as media. And like, I came home from trials and like sat on my couch and watched TV for 3 days. And that's all
Yeah.
I did, it's
Yeah.
just like, I can't do anything else.
Hmm.
It's a lot. And so, and you mentioned that even affected you as you went to Raleigh for the training camp. Did you go home to Vegas for a week and then go to Raleigh?
Yeah, I think we were back in Vegas for about a week. It wasn't, and I don't think, thankfully, I didn't get anything new. It was more like my sinus infection came back, but it got like so much worse. Like for some reason, I don't really know why. I went on antibiotics for like my sinus infection and like the other sickness before trials, and then it came back after. Then I had another like doctor's visit, I guess, and they wanted to put me on the same antibiotics, but we were all like, it didn't work the first time, like it's probably not going to work the second time. So then like there was this whole thing. So I got put on a medicine that thankfully helped, but that wasn't really until like I got to Raleigh, because it was like a week, and it's like 2 of those days were the weekend, like the doctors aren't open on the weekend. And yeah, so thankfully the doctors in Raleigh helped me with everything. So by the time Raleigh finished and we were flying to Croatia, I was fine. But it was hard getting through the practices, because the symptoms that I had for from my sinus infection was like sinus pressure, obviously, and I just had like headaches all the time. So it was really hard, like at practice, like swimming through headaches and everything like that.
Yeesh. I feel like every swimmer has been there
Hmm.
of having a sinus infection. I mean, I would get them all the time. I think my teammates would get them all the time. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, every time you push off, it's just like,
Yeah, and it's also, like, so hot and humid in Raleigh, which was not helping. Well,
oh,
like, through all this, I
yeah.
was kinda just trying to tell myself, like, everybody is going through hardships, like, I just have to, like, again, like, keep rolling with everything.
Yeah. So tell me about the, what, did you feel like you got the work in that you needed to in Raleigh? Did you go to Croatia feeling good about that?
Honestly, no. I was doing really bad at the practices. Like I wasn't doing very good, and it was really hard to, like, I don't really know how to explain this, but I just wasn't doing good in the practices, and that was kind of like putting me like down, and it was really hard to like stay like positive about everything. But once like the doctor started helping me and I started to feel a lot better, I was like a lot more positive, a lot more upbeat. So by like I don't remember how long we were in Raleigh for, but like the last couple days were pretty good.
Okay. So at least it was an upward trend.
Hmm.
And then, yeah, same thing for Croatia. Were you able to get in some work there that gives you some confidence moving into Paris?
Yeah, I felt a lot more confident about my work in Croatia. I got to swim with like other groups a little bit, which was really fun, because at this point, like I hadn't made the team in like the 4-8 or anything like that. So I was just training for the 2 free. Like I didn't have to do like those like long distance practices anymore. So I got to like swim with like I got to swim with Coach Todd a bit, like get coached by Coach Todd, I guess, swim with the UVA girls, which is really fun, because it was like I would join in on their like distance practices, but it was like completely like sprint for me. Like I would be like, okay, like this is like just a fun sprint practice.
I love the converse there.
Mhm.
But I mean, yeah, that sounds like a nice break from maybe the normal sandpiper routine.
Mhm.
And you get to, you know, different coaches, different athletes. It sounds fun. So heading into Paris, you were feeling pretty good.
Yeah.
You had some confidence back.
Yeah, I was well, not very confident, but I was a lot more confident than I was in Croatia. I was like, I had put in this good amount of work, but I also had that like shadow like behind me that was like, I was sick, like I didn't put the work in, I didn't get work in, or I didn't get good work in Raleigh. That's what I thought. I did, because I was like pushing through like what I was feeling, but just
Yeah.
like the thought of like how I wasn't doing good in practice was kind of like overshadowing that. But Croatia was much better, so I was glad that I was putting up some better times in Croatia. So yeah.
Nice. So then you get to Paris. You know, it's go time for the Olympics. You've been on world championship teams before. This is your first Olympic experience. How do you feel like just the first few days for you went in terms of getting used to the village, just swimming in the pool? You know, kind of getting accustomed to everything that would you'd have to, the environment you would be in during the actual swim meet.
Mhm. Yeah, moving into the village was crazy. Like, honestly, that was my favorite part of, like, the entire time was just, like, doing things in the village because it was just so crazy seeing, like, all the athletes who are just, like, the best at what they do and all the things they, like, set up for us in the village. So it was hard not to, like, go around and do everything, like, the first couple days because I think I swam the second day of the meet. So I was like, it's our team leaders are basically like, everything in the village is gonna be there on the last day. It's gonna be there when you're done swimming. So I just like kept that with me. I was like, I'm gonna do everything like after I'm done swimming, because after the relay I would have a couple days. But yeah, moving in was super fun, and then just getting to the pool and seeing everything and all the swimmers was also really crazy. One interesting thing is that like we like walked on to like the competition pool deck for the first time, and we all were kind of like, oh my god, like this is like such a small venue because like after Lucas Oil, it seemed so small, and we were like, okay, like we got this. This is like nothing compared to what that was. So that was a really interesting thing about it.
It's really funny because I mean it held less, but 17, 18,000. I think that's what Lucas Oil was, maybe on the lower attendance nights, or at least the minimum attendance nights. But it's funny that I was talking to someone else who was like, yeah, we're kind of used to this. Like we've done it before. We already know how this drill goes. So that is really funny. Did the crowd, so once you started competing though, did the crowd in Paris surprise you a little at the energy that they were giving?
Yeah, they were very loud, and I think that was something that was much different from Lucas Oil, is that I like would tell myself in Lucas Oil, like they were just playing like a soundtrack that the audience of like an audience, because it didn't really sound sorry, it didn't really sound real because the people were like so far away. Like it sounded like kind of echoey. So I'd just be like, there's actually nobody in the stadium. Like it's actually just me and seven other people in this pool.
It's the
And
soundtrack.
yeah, so that that kind of like calmed me a little bit. But in Paris, I could not tell myself that because I walked out and you could see like the faces of people. When you walked out at the football stadium, you couldn't actually like make out like any people. So that was a lot different. And it was like louder just like in like the small vicinity. So I could not convince myself that there weren't actually people in the Paris stadium, unfortunately.
I did hear though that it was a pretty American friendly crowd.
Yeah, they loved the Americans, they loved the French. There were a couple other countries, like I think they loved the Canadians too. They kind of like picked and choose like who they would cheer for, which was kind of sad, but yeah.
Nice. And then, yeah, just in terms of getting into the racing, how do you feel like the 200 free progressed for you, especially with a contrast to Olympic trials? I'm guessing at least prelims and semis went a little more smoothly.
Yeah, definitely. I honestly enjoyed it. I was just so excited to like start swimming, which is like something I don't really feel very often at swim meets. Like I wasn't like, oh, I just want to go and like get it over with. I just wanted to like get in and like do it and like swim, because I was so excited. So that was an interesting feeling. And just like, yeah, I enjoyed the process a lot more. Um, and just like representing your country is like so amazing. But like at the Olympics, it's even more crazy. So I was just trying to like take it all in and just like do the best I could, basically.
I mean, especially you've been on this stage before. Again, you've raced these women, but especially with the year that this event had, there have been so many fast times put up. I mean,
Mhm.
world record got broken at Australian trials. Did it feel any different for you than previous years racing all of these women who are at the top of this event?
Honestly, like not really. I try and focus a lot on myself at international meets because I can get kind of lost with what everybody else is doing. It's easier for me to just like race, like have a race plan of just like racing in domestically because I kind of know what everybody's gonna do. Like I race them like every single month basically. But it's a lot harder to like gauge people internationally. So I try and not do that because it throws myself off my race plan. So just like worrying about myself and like what I needed to do in the race was really helpful.
So on that note, you made it comfortably through to semifinals. In semifinals, you were 155.2. So you're third heading into the final. Do you tell me about the semifinal race, and especially, do you feel like you swam the race that you wanted to in that round?
Yeah, I was so nervous going into the semifinal because number one, I was in the first semifinal, and I was
Mm,
also in, I think I can say this, like the much slower semifinal, just like comparatively. Everybody was in the second semifinal. Like Molly was, Titmus was, Siobhan was. So I was like, oh my God, like I have to win this because if I
yeah,
get second, like I don't know if I'm gonna make the final.
yeah,
So I was just I was like, I have to give 100% in this race. Like because I need to make the final. I don't know what they're gonna do. Like, what if they go like world records in the second heat? I don't know. So I just did my best. I probably could have let up a little bit at the end, which I think took a little bit out of me the next day.
mm,
But looking back on it, like I didn't know. I was just trying to make the final.
yeah. I mean, yeah, especially as you said, you're in the first semi. It's like you don't want to let up too much and then end up getting ninth by a couple tenths or something.
Hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, you played it safe. You made it through comfortably to the final, and then yeah, just tell me about the final. Do you feel like, again, did it feel any different than other big finals that you had been in, especially like a trials or world championships? And also, do you feel like you executed the race the way you had wanted to?
Yeah, so it was actually my first individual like
Okay.
final at like a high level meet because I just barely missed the final in Budapest and then I didn't make the final in Fukuoka. So it was my first international final, which I was really excited about because I thought I knew I had like more to give like after the semifinal. I knew that wasn't like my perfect race. So I was really excited. The next day I woke up and I was kind of tired, but I was excited to swim in the final and everything. Like the final race, it didn't go how I wanted to. I was super nervous and it wasn't my best race, but just looking back on it, I was super glad I made the final and I feel like it sets me up for the years to come. So I can't really be upset about it. So after the race, I was kind of just like the next few days just preparing for the relay.
Yeah. Um, yeah, that relay was pretty great. As a fan, it was great watching it. What do you do in those next couple days to get ready for that relay? And did you know that you wouldn't swim on the prelims?
Um, yes, I think they told me. Honestly, I was like kind of thinking that maybe I should swim on the prelims just because I tend to have like good finals races when I swim on the prelims relays. I mean, when would swim, like when I would have a prelim swim. So I was kind of talking to Coach Ron about it. I was like, should I like do the prelims relay? And ultimately I ended up not being on the prelims relay. Um, but yeah, I think they told me like or I don't know if anybody told me. I think it was kind of just like a consensus because I did have the fastest like 200 freestyle time out of like the people there. So I was thankful that like that automatically like put me on the finals relay, especially considering last year I was even put on the prelims relay. So that was a really good like um honestly like a confidence boost because I was like, okay, like right now I'm like they're one of their top like 200 freestylers, and last year like they didn't even feel like I was like good enough to be on the relay. So that was really nice, just like for myself to know that, and I kind of carried that into the relay final, just being like, okay, like I'm like right now like these are the four best people we have. Like we just have to execute, and yeah.
And like I had forgotten about that. You didn't even swim on the relay last year at
Yeah,
Worlds.
I wasn't
Do
even on
you,
the relay at all.
what happened?
Well, yeah, I think I talked to you about this last year, but just basically I did very badly in my individual race and then they just decided they had an extra person because
Mm,
when Katie declined the spot, they ended up taking the seventh person. So they
mm,
were basically like, okay, we don't want to put you on the prelims relay because we want the extra person to swim. And then two people beat my time on the prelims relay, and they were like, "We're putting them on the finals relay." So I wasn't on either of them. And then they ended up coming out in the selection criteria before trials. They said if someone declines a two freestyle spot, they wouldn't take the seventh person. To I
right.
think, to, I think to like not have that happen again. But So
Yeah.
yeah, it was really hard for me last year. So this year, just having like having this happen was I think really good for me.
Yeah. Well, it seemed to show on paper and in that swim. I mean, you led off 154.8.
Hmm.
Obviously, that was the best. That was your best time, right?
Yeah.
Okay. First time under 155.
Yes.
Um, do you feel like that was the best way that you could have executed that you did execute the race during the meet? Yeah, I mean, you swum 200 freestyles in Paris.
Yeah, that was basic that sorry, that was definitely my best execution of the race. I think leading into the summer, I definitely knew I had like a 154 in me. I wanted to probably go like a lower 154, but just like coming out with the best times, like it was really amazing. And I've always wanted to be like the person that like clutched up on a relay. So just like having like the fastest time or just like leading off very well was just like it was super cool.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's just we got our 4 fastest. We just have to execute. You did it. You clutched
Hmm.
up.
Yeah. Yeah, I was very
Congrats.
happy. Thank you.
Yeah. And then just getting a silver medal, how did it feel to win your first individual Olympic medal?
Yeah, that was super surreal too. Just like being on the podium and everything was super cool. And it honestly just gives me like I guess like motivation for the future because it was just like the best feeling and I want to experience that again and hopefully like individually too. Um so yeah.
Yeah. And then what's all the cool stuff you got to do in the village with your 2 days off?
Yeah, so I basically, the day after I had media, but the day after that, I literally just went around the village, like doing everything. Like there was like I went to the coffee shop and I got my pet printed on it, which is something that I really wanted to do. I went to the rings. I didn't get any photos at the rings, which was like I regret that because that's just like you go to the Olympics, you have to get a picture at the rings. And what else did I do? There was a lot of other stuff. I'm like blanking right now. There was like a Zen like outdoor area where they had like yoga classes. I didn't attend a yoga class, but looking back on it, I would have really liked it because I love doing yoga. There were other things. There was like a alcohol-free like Bud Light stand too. Um, what else is there? And just like they had bikes there, so biking around the village was just super cool. Seeing all of the buildings and everything was just super cool. And I love biking. That's like all I did over COVID, so it was really nice to just like tap back into that, I guess.
Yeah, that sounds lovely. Biking, yeah, biking in the Olympic Village. That sounds great. Were
Yeah.
you in New York when you were biking during the pandemic?
Yeah, I was in New York. We would go, me and my friends would go on like these really long bike rides.
Sounds great.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was at first I was like, can you bike in Las Vegas? Like, is there places to do that? And then
It's very hilly. I think you can, but I'm gonna be
mhm,
honest, I don't know like the areas that you can like safely bike around here. Like
yeah.
I was much more comfortable with like the areas like in New York where like you can bike and where you probably shouldn't go like by yourself. But here I'm just like not familiar with like those places. I've asked people that before and they're like, where you live, like you could definitely like go on a walk or like bike by yourself, but I don't know.
Mm.
I just don't want to, I guess.
Yeah, I would just New York seems as a state seems much more bike friendly, or as a city seems much more bike friendly than Las Vegas
Yeah,
in
for
general.
sure.
So
Yeah,
anyway,
and yeah, there's a lot of homeless people here, and there's a lot of homeless
mm,
people in New York too, but I feel like the vibe from the homeless people are different. Like, I don't know if that makes sense, but here
oh, it
they're
does.
much like more like I don't know.
A little more aggressive, maybe, or
Yeah,
unpredictable.
yeah,
I think in New York you get really used to it, right? And it's like people don't really mess with you. They might ask you
mhm,
for something, but they're not gonna. I
yeah,
don't know. They seem a little more docile,
yeah,
perhaps.
yeah.
Um, so you get to do fun stuff in the village. That's great. Did I just reflecting on your Olympic experience? Is there anything that stands out to you that you really enjoyed doing, or that maybe surprised you that you didn't expect to happen?
That's a great question. Um, I don't know. I can't think of anything that like stands out right now. Honestly, just like the whole experience, just taking everything in was super cool. Probably like meeting people. Meeting other
Mm.
Team USA athletes is really cool, especially at the closing ceremonies. I was like I was very jealous of the people that got to go to opening because it seemed so cool.
Mhm.
But yeah, just like meeting new people and learning about their sport and everything was super cool.
So you got to go to closing ceremonies.
Hmm.
How is so? Did you stay in Paris that week, or did you go somewhere else?
Yeah, they made us move out of the village, so I moved out and I stayed with my mom for a week. My family was still there for like 2 of the days, but then like my siblings ended up going home, so I was just with my mom. So we kind of just were like tourists for the week, and then I moved in like the day of closing, went to closing, and then I left the next day.
Nice. Yeah. What was the closing ceremonies like?
Yeah, closing was super fun, just being around all of the athletes, but I think everybody went or was excited to go because they were advertising that Billie Eilish and the Red Hot Chili Peppers, I think that was, were performing, and then we all waited there for like 2 hours, and then it ended up that they were like playing in California. So that was a letdown, but like it was so
What?
fun. Yeah, after they like Zoom called in, like everybody just like started walking out. It was really funny.
No. How how could how could that happen? Like, was
I
there?
don't know. I was wondering that too
Dang.
because, like, I'm pretty sure they advertised that to the people that actually, like, bought tickets there. So I was like, I don't is that legal? I don't know.
Right. I mean, yeah, like how could you tell people, especially if they were in California, like
Mhm.
someone had to have known that anyway, whatever. I'm so
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah,
That
I know. It was very upsetting, but just going to closing was super cool. The closing, like, original or the opening of the closing
Mhm.
was really cool. Like, their, like,
Nice.
show or whatever.
Yeah. That's great. I mean, it sounds like you got to really take it in, like really
Mhm.
experience the whole get the whole Olympic experience, which is great,
Yeah.
especially coming off of Tokyo, where you just couldn't do a lot of that because of COVID and the state of the world at the time. So
Yeah.
nice.
Mhm.
And then then you go to Junior Open Water World Championships, or some iteration of those words. How what was it? Can you remind me of the turnaround? Were you home like a week?
Yeah, so I ended up going to back to New York for was it like a week? I think I was in New York for a week, and then
Mhm.
I came back for like a week and a half, and then I left for Italy.
Was this always the plan, or when did you know that you would be attending this Junior Open Water meet?
Yeah, so I committed to it back in April at Open Water Nationals, and I knew this was gonna happen, like, as I was, like, filling out the thing, so I was, like, talking to Coach Ron about it. I was like, "This is gonna be, like, right after the Olympics, like, are you sure, like, I should accept this?" And he was like, "Yeah, accept it, like, you can always, like, decline it later." Obviously, I never ended up declining it, and honestly, like, the week before Italy, I was like, "Oh my god, I'm so out of shape, like, I don't wanna go to this anymore, like, I'm gonna embarrass myself." But looking back on it, like, Italy was, like, one of the most fun trips I've ever been on, so I'm so glad I went, but it was definitely a quick turnaround. I was swimming, a little bit, like, every other day, when I was in New York and in Paris, but it's just, like, it wasn't, like, up to the standards that I'm usually swimming, like, swimming by yourself, especially at, like, European pools, like, it's never gonna be good.
Yeah, I mean, I assume it's just kind of like staying in shape, keeping the feel.
Yeah, keeping the feel, exactly.
Yeah, but it was one of the funnest trips. Tell me about it. You go over to Italy. How did the event selection work?
Yeah, so basically at Open Water Nationals, they chose 2 people from the 10K to swim the 10K, and then a third person to swim the 7.5. So I got selected for the 7.5 in the 10K, and then the other 7.5 person that won the actual 7.5 got to swim the 7.5, and then the 2 people in the 5K swim the 5K. So it was kind of confusing, but the way the knockout worked, I think, was they combined your PowerPoints or rankings or something from your 5 free 1,000 and or 4 free 800, 1,500, I guess. They probably did long course, and just whoever had like the highest points were what was chosen for that race.
Okay, yeah. I was excited to talk to you about this. I was like, looking at your stats, doing my research before this interview, and I didn't even see this. I don't even know if we wrote an article about it or I just missed it or like what happened, but I didn't know this was an event. I don't know what it is. It's
Yeah.
called the 3K Knockout Sprint.
Mhm.
What is this? Tell me about it.
Yeah, so we like did not know anything about this going in. I like was notified of this event like probably like a week and a half before I left. Like I had no idea I was doing it. I it was honestly super fun, but like no one really knew what they were doing. I didn't think it was going to be organized as well as they organized it. Originally, they were saying that it was going to take 3 hours to do. So I was like, okay, it's gonna be 1,500. You're gonna get like 30 minutes rest, 1,000, probably another 30 minutes, 500. But it ended up being you'd swam 1,500 in 2 heats. They sent them 3 minutes apart, and the top 10 people from the first heat and the second heat move on to the 1,000. And then 10 minutes later, 10 minutes after the second heat finishes, the the 10 people from each heat combined into one heat. So it's the top 20 people swim 1,000, and the top 10 people from that heat would then go on to swim a 500 5 minutes later. Yeah, it was 10 minutes, 5 minutes. So it was a very quick turnaround.
Whoa.
Mhm.
That's really awesome. I love that they incorporated a knockout format or like a skins format in
Yeah.
this open water meet. Um, and you won. That's so
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah,
So,
undefeated in the knockout. The only ever
um,
time.
so yeah, was there a strategy? I mean, because it's just like, are you just swimming straight?
No, so basically each lap of the original like 10, 7.5, and 5K course was a mile. So basically you would do one normal loop, and then they like shortened it each time. Like it became like they shortened the end buoys, it became 1,000, and they shortened it even more, and you would do another square for a 500. So they still had like the open water feel to it, which was super cool. And like I had a little bit of strategy going into it, but no one really knew what they were doing. The girls kind of had the upper hand because they got to watch the boys do it. The boys' race seemed much more intense than how I felt in my race, so it made me really nervous too. But basically, I was just trying to move on. I knew that in the 1,500, um, the people that were like really good would probably just like separate themselves like right off the bat. So I knew I didn't have to go all out in the 1,500 or anything. And then in the 1,000, I was just like, okay, I just have to get top 10. Like it was just basically move on. And then the 500, I was just like, all right, I'm just gonna go for it. It's only 500 because like a race in open water like always feels like shorter than the distance you're actually doing. So I was like, okay, a 500 in open water is basically like a 200. So this is like perfect for me, like right up my alley.
Interesting. It feels shorter. I mean, I guess there's less turns, but I wouldn't have guessed that. I would have guessed the opposite.
Oh
But
yeah.
huh. Well, that sounds super fun. And then so you won the 3K knockout. Was that towards the end of the meet?
Yeah, so the first day was the 10K, and then I swam on the second day. They had the 7.5s and the 5K. And then the third day was the knockout, and the fourth day was the relay. So I had like like I was swimming 3 days in a row, which I had never done in open water before. The most I've done is 2 days in a row. Actually, no, I've never swum any in a row because in Seychelles they put the 5K on the first day. So then I had the
Okay.
5K, I had a day of rest, and then the relay. So that was very challenging for me, but it was really fun.
Yeah. What did you learn through that process of racing 3 days of open water in a row?
Yeah, I honestly just learned like how sore you get. Like your neck gets so sore from sighting, And
Mm.
the most important thing in open water is like swimming out. Like we went to the pool and like swam out after every race, which was very helpful. Nothing fast, just like kind of like balancing yourself out again. Cause like especially in the waves, like you gotta like swim with it and you get like really like off balance. So just like getting back to like equilibrium is like the most important part, and just like recovery, obviously, like rolling out and everything. So
Mm.
yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, never knew that. Equilibrium, getting
Yeah.
getting your body back in tune. That's really yeah, I love that. How long is a swim out? I mean, obviously, like you do your race, and then how long do you go swim at the pool for?
Yeah, so we had like an hour and a half time slot. I think we swam for like an hour and 10 minutes. Yeah, like we did like a set that Ron gave us. It wasn't hard at all. It was just a mixture between like slow kicking and like smooth swimming, basically.
Hmm. But it's so pretty substantial, though. I mean, it's not like you're warming down from a race and you're
Yeah.
doing an easy thousand or something.
Yeah,
You're
it's not like a dip because it takes a while to like feel good. And you don't like really come out even like feeling like that great, but it's much better than when you started.
Interesting. And yeah, and then as you mentioned, on day 2 of the meet, you competed in the 7.5K, which you also won. Uh, what was that race like for you? And did you feel confident heading in? Did you feel confident heading out?
Yeah, I felt a little bit confident going in just because I knew like I had like international experience that a lot of the like juniors in that race didn't have. But on like the training side, I wasn't very confident because I knew I had just taken like a break and wasn't in like the best shape. So it was kind of like both. I was kind of like iffy in the middle. But also I knew there was like a little bit of pressure just because like I won the 5K 2 years ago and I wanted to like keep that up. So yeah, and the race, like it was like that was one of the hardest open water races I've done. Not because like the conditions or like the competition was super hard, just because like I honestly like did not have the training behind me to like do that long of a race. Like I remember like the first half, like I felt great. Like I got like straight to the front basically, and I was just swimming so smooth. And then like somewhere along the way, I just like started to like die so badly. I think it's just because I honestly wasn't used to like I didn't have like the like endurance behind me to just like keep going, I guess. And yeah, it wasn't even that I was like swimming fast and I was dying. I was just like I kept swimming smooth and I slowly was just like dying harder and harder. So the last lap was like really hard. I was honestly just like praying that nobody was gonna pass me because I knew I was not gonna be able to speed it up. I was just like, oh my god, I just gotta finish this race.
Man, to die in an open water race just sounds so unpleasant.
Yeah, you
Because
just have to
it's
be longer.
yeah, exactly. Where how close did the race end up being? Did you end up finishing quite ahead of the pack, or were they gaining?
Yeah, we were a little spread out, like, by the end of it, but the second place girl, I think she was only, like, 2 seconds behind me. Like,
Okay.
I think she was just, like, drafting off of me and just couldn't, like, get around me, so I just touched and she just touched after.
Bing bang boom.
Yeah, I
Nice.
was glad I got my hand on the wall first.
Yeah. And so then in terms of just the experience of this, what made it one of the most fun travel trips you'd ever been to?
Yeah, just like the people that were on it, honestly, I love junior trips so much because it's so much less like serious, if that makes sense. Like everybody's just having so much fun. And the younger girls on the trip were so funny. They reminded me of my little sisters. So it was really nice hanging out with them. And just being like the older person on the trip, like the people, I mean, sorry, the person that people can look up to or just like ask questions or bounce ideas off of was really special because I love helping people and I love giving people advice, but I don't want to give people like unwarranted advice, you know. So it was really nice like helping the younger girls and everything like that. And even Bryce was like, "Thank you for helping the girls out," which I didn't think I made that much of an impact, but they thought I did, so that was really nice.
No, I'm sure. I mean, it's always, I think in a situation like that, it's always nice to have good leadership. And not only have you been on several junior teams, you've been on several senior international teams. And I'm sure you do bring a wealth of experience and knowledge to those younger girls.
Yeah.
Well, wow, that sounds like quite the summer. After Italy, did you come home or did you stay traveling for a while?
Yeah, so straight from Italy, I went to Florida just to see some friends, and I got to train with the Sarasota Sharks, so that was really fun. I think I was there for about a week. I was planning, I think, staying a little bit longer, but then I ended up committing to swim in Hong Kong and Singapore, so I was like, I should probably come back and get back on like my training program. So now I'm back in Vegas, but yeah.
Yeah. And so the whirlwind summer's over. You've got a whirlwind fall coming up, but which we discussed at the top. Just moving forward into the next few months and into this year, where you kind of just get to focus on swimming and not too much else. What are you looking forward to about this post Olympic year?
Yeah, I'm trying to like figure out like things I can do with my time. I've been posting on social media a little bit more just because I have more time and like it makes me happy. Like it's a fun thing to do. I think I'm also gonna try and start doing swim lessons because I love again like helping people, like especially kids. Like I like helping kids like with swimming and stuff. So I think I'm gonna try and do that too.
Sounds like it's going to be a great year. Well, Claire, thanks so much for giving us a little bit of your time and digesting this summer and the coming fall with us. I really appreciate getting to catch up with you.
Thank you so much for having me.
You've been listening to the Swim Swam podcast. Stay tuned for new episodes every week. You can take Swim Swam podcast on the go by subscribing on your favorite podcast platform. Look for links in the description below, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more videos as well.